this meeting to order. Kathy, can you please take a roll?
Okay, Simmons. Griggs.
Here.
Blackman. Paredes. Huckabee. Here. Horst.
Here. And we definitely have a quorum, and I know Mr. Nelson is on his way, and he was at O'Hare at 6 o'clock, so we'll be a little late. Great. So the first item on our agenda, student recognition. We are honoring students tonight who are recipients of South Suburban Junior High School Association or the Bruce Brzezinski Award. Dr. Smith.
Certainly, just a little bit of information. In 2016, the South Suburban Junior High School Association instituted a new award for an 8th grade female and male athlete. I'm very happy tonight to award 2 plaques, one to Kenyon Haynes and one to Jane Backus, the South Suburban Junior High School Association. The award is known as the Bruce Brzezinski Award. The award is dedicated to 2 student athletes who have exhibited outstanding citizenship, academic excellence, school involvement, and athletic superiority on and off the court. I'm very proud to present the award to both Jane and Kenyon. Please.
Where's that from?
No, it's
I'm Dad. That's why we're here. All right, just one more. Back up to everyone. You guys are next to each other here. Great job. Congratulations.
All right, next item on the agenda, superintendent's comments.
Just a few items to run down this evening. First start with summer school. Program began on June 19th. We'll run through the 27th. We currently have 376 students enrolled from kindergarten to 8th grade. The classrooms cover everything from intervention, sports, to enrichment opportunities. Had a chance to visit the program last week, so a number of students and teachers working very hard, focused on individual improvement. This is Haley Margie, the summer school principal. She's done a really nice job of really managing a number of moving parts that are complex when busing to curriculum. So certainly we commend as well as all the teachers there. This is that time for end of the year reports, but we have everything from general state aid to various health reports. Looking at one more early childhood report that is due this week. And once that is in, we will be caught up with all of our reports that are necessary for ISB. We are still in the middle of some hiring, not only teachers, but certainly administrators as well. We'll be moving for the Parker Junior High assistant principal position on Wednesday. We reached out to some teachers and administrators to join that team. We have very qualified internal candidates. So we will not be opening up the pool. These 2 people I've interviewed in the past, so we'll bring them to the whole group. Feel very good about their skills and abilities, and know that we will select an excellent assistant principal. Briefly, to add some cheer to the just a quick legislative update. The legislators are currently in Springfield on a special session with the explicit goal of passing a budget before the beginning of FY18 on July 1st. A lot has already been written about the implications of not having a budget for another year, from losing transportation funds to damaging the accreditation of our colleges and universities. So we'll keep an eye on Springfield over the next few days. One item of particular note that I want to draw your attention to is House Bill 4066, which will freeze property tax levies for 4 years. This bill will address that a little bit more specifically and we're updated about the budget assumptions, but it certainly is something for us to watch. The July 4th holiday is coming up next week. Everyone's excited for that. The district office will be closed on July 3rd and 4th. It will reopen on Wednesday, July 5th. That's the day that all of our new 12-month administrators and employees begin working in District 161. And we're really looking forward to having them join the team and getting started with the important work of serving our community. That's the end of my report. At this time, we can move on to item 4 on the agenda. Audience comments.
No, hold on. Okay, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is audience comments, and we didn't have anyone who signed in, so on to the next item. Item number 5, consent agenda. Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented? So moved. Huckabee was first, Dr. Grizz was second. Any questions, comments?
Okay, Blackman?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes.
Griggs?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Worth?
Yes, the motion has passed. Next item, presentations or discussions. The first item, Summer 2017 Health, Life, Safety Construction Project Update. Dr. Smith will start the introductions. Representative from Green and Green Associates report in detail to the Board of Ed about the status of the 2017 Health, Life, Safety in Parker Junior High and construction projects.
Number of moving parts there with all the construction, but I'd like to welcome Mr. Matthew Tepper to the board, or to the dais, to the presentation to the board. Please.
Thank you, board members, president, vice president, superintendent, for the opportunity to come forward and let you know how things are going out there. There's 2 projects that are going on, 2 substantial projects. As of the end of last week, one of the major ones is obviously the Parker Junior High roof replacement that's going on right now. Right now, you go over there and it looks like a supply house yard. You know, all their materials are on site and they kind of ship them to where they need to. Use a crane, get them up on the roof and kind of move forward with things. As of last week, they were done with the 6th grade wing, which is kind of the whole northeast corner of the building. They were working on the media center, kind of heading back toward the east, toward the main entrance. Everything's operating on schedule, on budget. They're just kind of moving forward. We've got some good weather days, behind us, and hopefully we'll have more good weather days ahead of us. They'll probably in the next 2 weeks we'll be working through the north gym, on top of the north gym, and kind of around the north side of the gym. And then toward kind of the middle of July, they'll kind of be moving through the LGI space and then the locker room area behind the north gym. And then at the very end, they'll work on the south gym roof for that replacement. They've already taken out the 2 mechanical units to the sides of the north gym, and then they're going to be doing preparations to get the new units in there that will supply heating and cooling for the north gym for the first time. So that should be moving forward. Haven't seen any issues running forward, so they're on schedule, on budget. The other one is all the other district-wide life safety improvements by Key Construction. Flossmoor Hills Elementary School pretty much mainly just had exterior work that was done, repairing some crack bricks and some other areas. All that stuff been done. They just need to kind of clean the area a little bit. There's some supplementary concrete work and some soffit work that still needs to be done, but they're on schedule with that. Heather Hill, mainly interior masonry partitions, fire separations, things like that from the life safety plan. Those are being taken care of right now. There's new air conditioning equipment being installed in the IT room that was subject to overheating. I think they're just coordinating some rooftop connections and piping, so those things should be coming online in the next couple of weeks. Same kind of thing, Flossmoor Hills has that same kind of thing, that IT area that's got equipment and they're about in the same phase. Serena Hills, mainly just interior partitions. They were starting to stage that stuff when I was out here last week, so they'll probably be rolling through those throughout Serena Hills this week. Western Avenue, they're working on some of the same masonry exterior corrections. They were out there the last time I was out last week, and they should be rolling through, probably finishing up there this week, and then kind of moving over to Parker for those exterior masonry work. And then here at Normandy Villa, the new water line's been replaced, or the old water line's been replaced with the new one, and it's back up in service. Asbestos abatement took place as scheduled on the east offices, and then all the new finishes, carpeting, rubber base, everything else has been installed effectively. So right now it's just kind of, most of that scope work is done, and starting in July, we should be getting into the hard and heavy part of the door replacement, door hardware replacement, and all those things. So they're moving forward with handling kind of the small supplementary pieces so they can kind of go full force, with the hardware and everything. And as of the day of this report last week, everything was going as planned, on schedule, and on budget. So hopefully we can have continued success throughout the rest of this project before school starts next term. So, any questions you might have?
So you got me when you said heating and cooling in the north gym. All the rest was great, but the heating and the cooling in the north gym bring a whole meaning to concerts. So they
Should make a difference.
Any questions, comments? Thank you very much. Next item, transportation. Dr. Smith will introduce John Benish, president of Page Bus, who will drive.
Certainly, so John Benish is here from Page Busing, and he's going to give sort of an end of the year update on our transportation, essentially contract and other things that happen with.
Yeah, so thank you for having me tonight. John Benish Jr. And with me tonight is PJ from Page Bus. It's a family-owned and operated school bus company. We've been around since the late 50s. So we started the summer school process, which I know we had a couple glitches, so we're here if you would like to come back to the meeting and talk about some of those things. I was informed at a wedding last week, which is good. The nice thing about Page Bus is consistency, and we'll have most of the drivers coming back this year. We allow them to also pick the same routes that they had last year. So we'd like them to be in the same bus, on the same route that they did last year, try to keep things as consistent as we possibly can. Also good news is that Pam really knows her stuff, has been around busing for a long, long time, and that makes our lives a lot easier when you have an internal person that really knows what she's doing. Also, too, to let you know, all of your school buses all do have cameras inside of them, so we do can be able to listen and have the audio and the visual inside the buses. If there is a problem on the bus, we can retrieve that. It stores at least 3 or 4 days ahead of time, as long as we know right away. Also, too, all your buses are equipped with GPS, so we can track the bus and go back last week, a couple hours ago, or even 2 or 3 months ago, and see exactly where that bus was at time and date stamped. So that's a nice thing to have if you have a parent that said the bus either was too early, too late, or there was an issue with the bus. So we are counting on about the same amount of routes as this year as we had last year. There is a giant shortage of drivers, not only in the state of Illinois, but also across the country, so I do have to put my head in. If anybody knows anybody that's interested, we train all our drivers on site, and we do pay for training if anybody knows anybody's interested. So we're looking forward to getting the school year started. We talked about it a little bit this evening, and we're going to start the school year pretty much starting with the almost exact routes as we started, as we stopped at the end the school year. So that should make consistency with the same corners, again, the same routes and the same drivers. So that's about all I have. Yes, sir.
I have a question. You mentioned that you have a GPS in the buses and you guys know where they are at all times. Is there an app that parents could download so that they can see, well, it's, early in the morning, it's cold, it's January, is the bus coming? So that, or some sort of alert to let them know the bus will be there in 5 minutes if their kid's not standing out freezing in the corner.
Yes, there's a couple apps that are out there that are not totally perfected yet, but yes, we do have the ability to tie that in and piggybacks on our GPS. Probably in the first or second month of the school, I'd be happy to do a demo for here or the district office. That's it. But it is a nice, you're right, it's a nice feature. It goes to all the smartphones, and we also can shoot out alerts prior to the bus actually being late. One of them is called Bus Alert. Yes, thank you.
So, instead of waiting until after school starts, can we make sure the parents are aware that before school starts, or is it not going to be available?
It probably wouldn't be ready in time, but I could check and see, and we can hurry up and put it out there. It's a,
I mean, historically, the most challenging weeks are.
I'm sorry, yes, the first couple of weeks of school.
And I understand that after doesn't work, all that's.
Sure.
But, I think if parents have a complaint about busing in this district so far, it's a lack of communication, something goes wrong.
Right.
Not that this is entirely on you, but that would vastly, I think, help parent satisfaction.
Sure.
And just along that, just so that I can understand better, I know you said that you have GPS. If a bus driver gets lost, doesn't know, is a substitute bus driver, how are they supported in navigating the neighborhood that they're in? Are they able to use the GPS to actually come up with the route quickly? How does that work?
All the drivers, again, when they pick the route at the beginning of the school year, all have written directions, so all the drivers need basic written directions for each route, whether they're a sub or the regular bus driver. The GPS system really just is telling the satellite where they're at, and that there's not a screen or anything inside the bus. That technology is coming. But all the buses do have radios, two-way radios in them. And of course, by law, they can't be on the phone at any time when they're driving, just like a car, of course, or a school bus. But they do have a two-way radio, and they can call dispatch at any time on a two-way, which is allowable by law.
Okay.
If they really, really do get lost, which has happened, we can, they can pull over to the side, they get on their phone, or they can call dispatch, but it has happened.
Or the kids can navigate.
Or the students can navigate, yes.
Which I understand has happened many times this school year with, we had one bus beginning the summer with 2 hours behind schedule.
Yep.
I know the activity buses, at least in my experience, have been significantly behind schedule. I'm not sure, it seems that the drivers, they get off the route, and then once that happens, they don't seem that, they're lost. They could be 1 block away from where they're supposed to be, totally lost, and seems to be it would be great if you guys could fix that.
Good suggestion. And it's good to know I did grow up with Flossmoor as a child, and so grew up near Heather Hill, and Heather Hill Grade School, and also to Marion High School, so I'm local, so you know the area.
I have 2 questions. One is, remind me, the first part of the year, like before the first actual day that you all, the drivers come out and.
We do our
test?
practice run or a dry run.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we can give you the date for that. And
Yeah.
what we do it is real time.
And then the second thing I wanted to know, you mentioned visual and audio cameras. I wasn't sure that I heard it correctly, but how long is that footage kept?
So I think that on the buses you have, we have 2 cameras on each bus. So depending on how long the bus is actually running on a route, we usually have at least 3 to 4 days of material on there. Plus 2 or 3 hour route in the morning, 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon.
So if I'm looking for something, say an incident that may have occurred 2 weeks ago, are you able to pull that or just?
We could check, that's probably a little old. The important thing is to make sure, we were, again, just discussing this before, as long as the drivers, if they see something, they can do something, either write the child up or write the incident up. As long as the school knows, usually they contact us right away, and then we can pull the tape right away. What we do is either bring the tape in, it's all digital now anyway, it's not a tape, so we'll download that and we can put it on the computer, put it on a thumb drive. So as long as we know right away, we can retrieve it. For 2 weeks, it's a rule.
So about 3 to 4 days is
Yes,
this
ma'am.
month? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Next item on the agenda, discussion of joint annual conference and the National School Board Association membership. You got it.
That's me. So you have the report in your packet. Registrations for the joint annual conference have opened up. So we want to make sure we had a conversation with the board about who would be interested in attending that this year. The dates are November 17th through the 19th. It's held downtown. In your materials are just some general information from the website about the conference, contacts, dates, purpose, etc. You all don't have to decide today, but we certainly want to make sure that if you are interested in going, that we get everyone signed up in a timely manner, so that no one's locked out of the conference.
Can you give us a deadline? When would you like for us to make a decision? Is that a Kathy question?
That's okay.
Well, I believe we usually do register around the month of July.
Okay.
So maybe by the 10th?
Okay, so by the next meeting?
Is that okay?
So I've certainly gone, Steve has gone in the past, so we can answer questions. There's a I wasn't able to make it last year, but I did go the year before. It was extremely helpful. It's quite overwhelming because there are so many workshops, and I think it's usually in multiple hotels, so you're doing,
Sometimes you have to, like, literally one hand, you have to jump in a cab and then get all the way to the other side, and you just barely get in and make it.
Yeah. But it is it's professional development for board members, so it's quite helpful.
Yeah.
Do we know how early we have to register in order to get into the host hotel to kind of alleviate some of that? Because it seems like we always end up in.
We always get the Marriott, and yeah, we have registered early. I'm not sure, but I know people have already, school districts have already registered by now.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So, as soon as you know, we can get registered and hopefully kind of alleviate that.
I'll definitely be interested in going, because I think it's a great opportunity. I don't care how long you've been sitting on the board, the professional development that it offers is, it is overwhelming at the same time. I think that no matter, again, how long you've been on the board, it's always something new to learn, always something new things that you may not, topics that you may not be aware of, or topics that you are aware of, that you need, to become more familiar with, and of course, in board members. Definitely something that I think everybody should try to attend. I know I definitely would be interested in going.
And I think if we do, the more we can proactively look at, okay, how does this tie to our goals? What are we doing this year? What are initiatives? Then that may better enable us to target specific workshops to go to really support what we're doing at Portland.
The dates here, is it 17th through 19th? Is it full days, or is it half day, full day, half day? Or?
It's, Friday is, there are some workshops you can attend. There's a really great, half-day full, workshops or full-day workshops that, are, it's extra, it's like an a la carte that you would pay if somebody were going to that. The board president workshop was a full day. That was absolutely invaluable. But that is not included with your tri-conference bill. And then Saturday, it's full day. And then Sunday, there are some, hold on, let me think. I think that there, if I'm not mistaken, there's some workshops on Friday, is that right?
Yeah.
There are not that many, but
Not that
there
many.
are.
And then Saturday is
Full day
full day.
Saturday.
And then Sunday is full day as well. And then, so they have 3 keynote speakers. I think at 5 o'clock on, I want to say the evening, 3 o'clock on Friday, their first keynote speaker speaks, about something related to education. Saturday, they have another one, and then a closer, roughly around 1 o'clock on Sunday. So, and, to be perfectly candid, some of them might have thought, well, I don't know why they're here, but I'm sure they're very nice people. Others I thought were just really fantastic, and I'm glad that I stayed. 2 years ago, Judy and I stayed for one about, what is it to be a hero? And, the guy was funny. He talked about how much he really hated his flight in Chicago. But he made a lot of really good points and tied them into the importance of being present in your job and going above and beyond in your function and your role, and what a huge difference that makes to individuals and also the organization. So, and that's not something that I would have looked at and said, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to make sure you go to that. Like I said, committed to going to the whole thing. So, and again, it kind of depends on your schedule and what you can do. But those are my experience.
What's the cost of the?
490, you asked the cost?
Yeah, registration cost is $490.
It's $490 if you do it the day, it's $465 if you do it prior to, so I think it's, if you do it prior to October.
And we do have a budget.
Oh, I'm going to try that, yeah. I'm not, right, so I'm trying to decide.
Sure. So folks will be back to us. Thanks, Kathy.
Yes, how about to both Kathy and I? And really, it's two things. One, are you attending? And then two, would you be staying? And then if you do that by the 10th, we'll get everything registered and report at our July 10th board meeting for the accommodations.
National School Board Association and membership.
Yeah, so I added this, again, there's really nothing to address necessarily, but we did get an invoice for our National School Board Association membership. So before we processed that, I want to make sure that was something that we still wanted to participate in. They do have a national conference April 4th through April 7th. I didn't know if there was any history behind that. If people had attended in the past, I know.
2 years ago,
Okay.
Timmy went to the one in Boston, I think.
Okay.
Generally speaking, and this is just my perspective, and again, this is kind of like the TREC conference, I think that those things are most effective when you walk in with a very bought into plan, and we thought, okay, we're going to see these conferences, we're going to look at these workshops, and we're going to use those to help sort of inform our what we're doing here in our initiatives and maximize what we're doing in our priorities. Timmy's comment was for her, she wasn't feeling well really for any of these conferences she's gone to, is that it was a lot of running around for one person. Her perspective was that there are whole boards that would come. Looking at this as an expense, it's very expensive for an entire board and superintendent to get. So I think, and I'm just going to flatly say I have no interest in going, and I'm not planning on going. I think that if we decide we want to do that, again, we should have a very solid plan that we want to send this person or these people for this specific reason to help this initiative.
So
That's just my perspective.
I certainly appreciate that. How about we bring back some information on the registration timelines? We may want to get through the joint conference in November and then reassess.
And I would say specific, extend available specific information about the panels and workshops that are held. If there's some particular project we as a board are working on, and we support to send some there to speak with vendors or some particular panels, great. But just to kind of hope that there's all material there.
Does anyone have a sense of what the value is of being members
from my conversations with Timmy, was having gone to the website to look at resources, oh, this would be helpful, or this would be something we could really, build upon. Again, the value is, I think, entirely dependent on a concerted effort through the superintendent's priorities and through the board's priorities and the ends that we expect. So I think it could be very valuable if this is part of a very well thought out plan, not a case of, something we're stumbling to do the last minute or this person wants to go. I think this is something as a board we have to have consensus on. We should know who's going, or how many people are going, and then what we want to take back. So part of that might be, again, looking at what are the workshops are going to offer, and would it be of value this year, maybe once we're up till next year, maybe.
Right.
I'm thinking about just membership.
Yeah, I think
Membership.
the conference is one piece,
Right.
but I think the value of the $2,500 membership is another.
What are the benefits? What do they offer? Periodical
I was hoping you would be able
access?
to shed some information on that, John, anything?
That's the biggest thing I see is the periodical,
They give you-
which I enjoy getting and reading.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. You don't have to
Should they have
make this
a
decision
database?
now.
Yeah, they do.
What I'll do is, I'll go back, gather some of the information about the tangibles, the resources we have access to. So I'm sure it's the periodical, but also online databases and those sorts of things. Make sure you have all your credentials. And then, it doesn't expire maybe for 6 or 8 weeks. So we have time to make this decision.
Well, I think it's more dangerous. I think people are sitting and looking at it, carrying reports on this thing, bringing back, reporting to us. Because if nobody's interested in that, affects whether it's worth it.
Absolutely.
I do read the periodicals. Next item, board retreat dates.
Yes. So I think we set out dates 8, 9, and 10 without successfully finding one. So probably best if all of us can take a look at our calendars while we're here to see if we can find a date that works for everybody for the retreat.
Are you looking to do this in the morning, afternoon,
I think we're flexible.
You're saying July 8th, 9th, and 10th? Either one of those?
At this point,
Probably too soon.
that may be a little. So we, in the second round of dates, mixed it up a little bit, did a couple of Wednesdays, a couple of Thursdays, Tuesdays in there. We were pretty close, but really probably around, realistically, timeline-wise, I think the 17th is probably the soonest, sometime that week we could schedule something. Because again, we'll have to reach out to either to Perry Hill or John Fester or a couple of other people to be able to bring in, to talk around some specific topics that are important to the board.
I'm out of town. I believe July 14th.
So then really we're looking at the week of the 24th, July.
I'm out of town.
So we're probably gonna have to go to August, is what I'm guessing. How about the week of the 7th?
You're on vacation.
On that, back the 7th.
I'm back in mid-August.
Oh, so you're gone the week of the 7th? When are you back?
I'm theoretically
So here's the
There's a lot of theory.
Here's a, we have a board meeting on the 14th
Of August.
of August. It's probably already marked in your calendar. It would be possible to start, do the retreat from 5 to 7. And
Maybe
then
that would be fun.
August 14th?
it makes it a little bit longer, but then you're not blocking off another day in your calendar.
you back, Cora?
On the 20th.
They're meeting the 28th.
There is.
How about the 20th, 21st, sorry? Would that be good, 5 to 7 or 7 to 9?
That's
We
fine.
don't have a meeting.
I know that.
Oh, but just in general?
The kids are back to school.
The kids are back on the 24th. The 21st is our first institute day.
I am, as an LSAT question, I am back from August 14th on. So, well, just like, this person is doing. But just however that fits.
You're back on the 14th?
I'm back.
Isn't the 14th one of the days that isn't that the board meeting day?
Yes, technically.
Oh, right. I forgot.
I tell you what I'll do, I'll see if I can move.
We have a recommendation from 28th.
No, I'm saying, I'll see if I can move and I'll just fly out later. Because it being so early, maybe I can change my ticket and just go out on the 15th. We can do the 14th.
How about this? Can we check the 28th? Just to verify that way, if that works, then we don't have to change.
That's fine. August 28th, the board's meeting.
John?
28th before the meeting.
All right. So we want just 2 hours and 5 to 7? Is that okay? Keep focused on that. August 28th? Yeah, we'll be judicious and maybe right, but we'll start with 2 hours. And then we can always do short versions so allow opportunity for 4 weeks. That way you go off your schedule. August 28th at 5 o'clock, we'll be here.
Okay, next item, budget assumptions.
Great, we have Fran Lavella to share some information as we prepare to develop a budget.
So our purpose that we've been discussing, this is a discussion, which means interrupt me, okay?
Can you go back?
Okay. Any of these assumptions can and will change depending on what's going out momentarily from Springfield. These slides changed right up until 20 minutes prior to board time, and they probably could have changed again. So know that this is still quite a moving target. Really, what this is about is what are you comfortable with? What is it you want to build into this budget? And really, we're talking the revenue side because the expenditures, we kind of know what those are going to be. It's this revenue side that's really a big question mark. My caution, don't be overly conservative, but don't be overly optimistic either. Okay, this is kind of a balancing act. And remember, this is a roadmap. Okay, this is kind of this is what we kind of think is going to happen. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Okay, so we kind of make the best decisions based on the information that we have at hand, which, like I said, is changing momentarily. So let's start with, okay, let's start with property taxes. This is the largest piece. And as Dr. Smith said, we're talking about property tax freezes, and we're going to kind of get into, I'm going to get a little more into that. But let's assume that we do have a 2017 levy the same way that it's been without property tax freeze. What does that look like? It looks like a CPI of 2.1%. Okay. My estimates right now, based on a 2.1% levy, is $23.4 million of property tax levy. If we have a property tax freeze, my estimate is this still $23.4 million of property taxes. So why? Our property tax levy does not line up with your budget year. You have two payments. Your first payment of the fiscal year, which will be August 1st, tax bills are supposed to be going out at the end of this week. So August 1st will be your first installment, your payments for the budget year. But it is actually the second installment of the prior year's levy. So it's the second installment of the 2016 levy. That levy wasn't frozen, okay? So that goes on as scheduled. The second payment of the fiscal year is the first installment of the 2017 levy. So either that levy will have on 2.1% or it could be frozen. But the levies aren't complete. So the first installment is always 55% of the prior year's levy. That won't change either. So next year's levy is going to be about 23.4, no matter what they do with projects. It's the fiscal year 19 that would start taking effect, okay? So,
It's moving on the computer.
is it?
Yes, doing
I
here.
think you got a delay on the screen.
Which page do you want?
Maybe you've frozen it on the projector.
Go back. All right, now it's Nelson. Okay, back. Like that. Okay. So I kind of tried to give you a little bit of an idea here. So these are the budget years going down, going across your levy years. Okay. So you have two installments of your levy. So your 2016 levy year, you get your first installment of the 2017 budget, you'll get your second installment of the 2018 budget. Okay. And then your 2017 levy, your first installment is in the 2018 budget. So you're crossing budget years and fiscal years, and the combination comes up. So we're going to see about 23.4 million, whichever way they go, okay? And this is all based on about a 96% collection rate. You can see from the prior 4 years, we've been 96.2, 96.7, 95.6, 96.5. We're budgeting 96% collection. That's historically been about what we collect, okay? Keeping in mind that a lot of that 4% uncollected, a lot of it comes from property tax appeals done after. So that comes straight off the top of your. So let's talk about freeze. My concern, my greatest concern, besides the fact that it has compounding issues, and we'll talk more about that when it comes. My concern when we start talking about property tax freeze is what are people thinking when they hear it? I think of my mother. If I told my mother, you're going to have a property tax freeze, her assumption is going to be, my bill is going to be the exact same every year from now on. I think that's what most people who don't do this are going to assume, that their bills are going to stay the same. So let me give you an example of why I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm a little concerned about what the message is and how we get in front of that message. So here we are with our properties. Let's assume that there's only 5 properties in Flossmoor. 3 of them are residents, 2 of them are businesses. Okay? They get assessed, that's the market value of the property. They get assessed at the level depending on whether they're a resident or they're commercial property, which gives you the assessed value. Then you multiply it by the multiplier, which gives you your equalized assessed value. So let's assume that once we hit an EAV, our properties are all worth $100,000, okay? Then we put on a rate, let's assume it's a 1% rate. You apply it against your EAV, and everybody pays their taxes, and we're getting $1,000, okay? That's our levy, that's what it is. Look at the percentages going across, right there. We freeze, okay? The school district will only get $1,000. We can agree to that, right? That's what frozen means. We get the same amount that we got the prior year. But the assessment process doesn't stop. And people are always going to be appealing their assessment because they don't believe that their property was correctly assessed. So let's assume that Kim's big business here says, my property isn't worth $50,000. My property is only worth $40,000. One pot is $1,000. How do I cut that thing off? So Kim appeals and gets it reduced to $40,000. Your total base now goes to $90,000. They get a reduction in their tax bill, but we're still entitled to $1,000. So what happens? It gets redistributed amongst the rest of your taxpayers. Does that look like a freeze to you if you're a resident? This is gonna be challenging, no matter what way you dice it. So I just kind of want to start talking about what does freeze mean? What does it really mean? It's going to mean that we'll be frozen. It's how we get ahead of this. And we're going to, if this goes through, we really need to have some conversation about how we communicate with our community, because I'm afraid of situations exactly like this one. Okay. So let's get to the next one. So property taxes, yes.
Do you have any, is there a, I don't know, a bunch of ideas that are already out there? This is kind of a new thing where this has been very successful at, school X's community, school Y's community didn't do such a good job.
I have to tell you, we're kind of in uncharted territory across the board. The thing that we're seeing now is things that, I started having conversations with an awful lot of people, with legislators, with and other business officials, with other superintendents, with Rob Rossi at Clinton Township Treasurer. This is kind of one of those situations where it's the perfect storm. It's not just one thing that's being talked about and touched right now. We're talking about touching property taxes, general state aid model, mandated categoricals, federal funding. It's all changing up. And this conversation here, this really gets crazy. So when I start talking and you go, wait a minute, Fran, back up, you just double talked on me. It's very possible that I did, because we're seeing different things in different bills and different possibilities of what might be coming down. So has anyone, nobody's really hit this yet. And yeah, there's a lot of talk about what's the best way to do it. And the whole idea of what a property tax freeze means, that conversation has just started. It's in its infancy. We just all started going, hey, what's the message that we're sending?
Is this something that is consistent throughout Cook County?
It's going to be consistent across the state.
Across the state. So there are, professional organizations that give me Illinois.
I asked those that have to start getting in front of this. The regionals are starting to get in front of this. I know a lot of business officials, we started having that conversation and started running some of these models. We're a little concerned, some of us who are a little longer too, have been around the block a few times, about how some of our younger colleagues are understanding some of the nuances of what this is. It's going to be significant.
So I appreciate the suggestion that we get out front. The shade, the exact shape of the property tax freeze is very likely to change. So
Yep.
I don't think we can get out front until.
Oh, no, not until something's actually done. I'm just starting to say, start thinking about what some of these things are.
In terms of the long-term planning, right? So it's sort of impossible at this point to, if you try to configure those to the broader mandate and ongoing initiative, your head will spin over and you can't figure out what happens. But there's certain trends that I don't think are going. I don't think the criticism of property taxes and tax rates in Illinois, especially South Suburbs, I don't think the pressure on municipalities and school districts to normalize what we charge, essentially, with surrounding states is going to presume that, I don't know what's easy for you to work with, but the dollars we're taking in this year are probably not going to increase next year. They're probably not going to increase in 2 or 3 years. Regardless, that way, regardless of the property tax rate itself happens, you know, regardless of whether Ronald gets out of office and the Democrat gets elected or whatever happens, right? That the fact that we're paying, you know, huge tax rates is not going to change. So that pressure's not going to go away. You know, I think for our planning purposes, we should think revenue where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to here, this 23.4, and you're seeing a reasonable jump from 17 to 18 on property taxes, that's Meyer coming on board. That's what that is, that's your new property, for the most part. I mean, because CPI is only 0.7. So, I mean, the majority of that new income there is new property from Meyer. But other than that, yeah, you're gonna be sticking at that 23.4. I don't see that really budging too much in the next several years. That's pretty much where we're at. So like I said, I think property tax, that's probably the easiest piece in this whole thing. You're about 23.4, plan on pretty much being.
So have we started relying revenue from Meyer?
We'll see that with this second installment in 2016.
Before we could, but we were just coming in, right?
Correct. Yeah, this is the first one. We saw a bump from 16 to 17, about $500,000. That was the TIF rolling off on that property. And then Meyer coming on is the 17 to 18. So yeah, you got 2 nice years of bumps. One was the TIF rolling off and the other was Meyer coming on. All right. General state aid, which is now going to be called the evidence-based model through Senate Bill 1. It also has this hold harmless provision, but you don't really actually see that in something called hold harmless when you start looking at the calculations that are out there. They're calling it the base minimum funding. And then beyond that, they put you into 4 tiers depending on your need. But there's not a whole lot of additional funding to fund the additional need. Base minimum is kind of where you're at. For the record, we are falling in tier 2, which doesn't make us the worst funded, but certainly doesn't put us in tiers 3 and 4, which are the real wealthy ones. So we fall in tier 2. So there is supposed to be some additional funding for us there, if there's additional money to pay. Our base minimum funding is $5.3 million. We're at 5.4 in general state aid right now. So, you know, we're right in the same ballpark, 5.3. Big questions here. Will the governor sign Senate Bill 1 in the position that it's in? Now we're looking at Senate Bill 1124, which mimics Senate Bill 1, except it cuts out the Chicago Public Schools block grant. So there's politics involved in this whole thing. If you look at the state board's calculations funding both Senate Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1124, it looks identical with the exception of how much additional money is put into the tiers beyond that 5.3 million. I'm skeptical. My recommendation at this point is going to be to stay at the 5.3 million of that base funding. At this point, we don't even have a budget. And you got to remember, general state aid is being paid because they made a special appropriation for K-12 funding, which they do not have right now. So if there's no separate appropriation, we're not getting anything starting in August until they actually approve something. And that remains to be seen whether they can hash out this week or not. My recommendation on this is to go with that base minimum funding of $5.3 million. I have a hard time believing that they're not going to appropriate something, because if they can't open up schools in the fall, that's a whole different ballgame. And I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that. But Your thoughts?
So I can tell you, at a recent large unit district association meeting in the spring, the feedback from Representative Pritchard from Sycamore was to the superintendents was that you're going to have to keep schools closed in the fall to send a message to Springfield. And our collective response was, you are Springfield. We're sending you the message. Give us a budget so that we can stay open. But that just kind of gives you an idea of where the pressure come from. So when you think about the property tax bill, there were only 3 witness slips against, or I should say 4, and 89 against. Doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, there were a few from Homewood, or a few from Flossmoor and the surrounding areas, but we'll need to make sure that our voices of our board members, our teachers, or our neighbors are heard to really send a message that we have to get some movement out of Springfield. Because if they're looking for us to not open up schools and serve our communities, that just doesn't seem like a logical response on our part. If we can do that, step up to the plate and make the tough decisions.
I agree with you.
Okay, feel good? Okay, we're done with that. So let's talk about the rest of the state budget. This is updated as of this morning. Last week, the state made second quarter payments for special ed personnel, regular transportation, and special ed transportation. So they made 3 additional payments. They vouchered and sent everything else to the comptroller. So nothing is unvouchered at this point. Everything is vouchered, and the state owes us almost $1.2 million right now for this year's fund. Okay. Now, something to keep in mind. Special ed funding extraordinary, special ed personnel, special ed summer school are all rolled into Senate Bill 1 or Senate Bill 1124. So those go away.
So assuming either of those bills passes, your assumption from the previous slide holds, probably a little more than that, but we won't get these amounts. We won't recover these amounts, we're wrong.
So we're down about $800,000.
Is this the thing that you had referred to about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, as being a problem that probably the authors of the bill didn't really foresee?
I'm not sure. They went with, this has been so, you guys see the calculations on this thing, it's nuts. There have been many blips along the way, many amendments along the way. I don't understand when they're saying hold harmless, where they're calculating how this is harmless if we're dropping $700,000 of education money. I don't get that. And any numbers that I've seen so far, I'm still showing us coming up short. I'm struggling with this one, and I spent a lot of time trying to follow the spreadsheets from this cell to this cell to this cell to try and figure out how their calculations are being done. And it's still crazy to me.
Fran, where were we this time last year in terms of outstanding payments from the state? Do you remember?
At the end of the year, because let's see, at the end of the year, we were 1 quarter behind. So this year, we received the last quarter of 2016. We received this first quarter of 2017, and now we just received payments for 3 of the areas for the third quarter. I'm sorry, for the second quarter. For personnel, regular, and special education only, special ed transportation only. The others, we haven't seen anything. Like I said, we're owed about 1.2. to be caught up by the end of 2018, they're gonna owe us like $3.2 million. I don't see that happening at this point. So I guess the question is what's realistic? And again, when you don't add special ed, that, and including bilingual is also been built into the evidence-based model. So I don't know what we're looking at. When I kept thinking about this, going, okay, what would be the best case that I would think might be reasonable? I came up with, okay, are we looking at 2 quarters? Are we looking at 3 quarters? And I came up with, just pay me for what you owe me for this year, $1.2 million. I just don't know that they're gonna have the cash to come up with anything more than that. Remember, they're sitting on a backlog of bills, that's insane. And if they give us the evidence-based model, at least that base funding, I don't know how much of the mandated categoricals they're gonna put money behind when they've got a stack of bills for people who didn't have any appropriations this year. If they manage to pass a budget, there's a whole lot of people in line for money. So I'm thinking that our best month went, let's put in the $1.2 million that they owe us for this year. I hope that we get the 5.3 for tax. To me, that's conservative, but I don't know, thoughts?
And is that the worst
No,
case
it's not.
scenario? 'Cause
Absolutely.
I'm guessing
The
you're
worst case
probably
scenario is
running
zero.
a worst case scenario than that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
guessing
mean,
you are,
absolutely.
so-
I mean, I'm looking at what if they don't pay anything? I mean, you gotta know that it's a possibility.
Would it help, would it be reasonable to assume, so we fix our revenue for the next couple of years and assume we're going to get shortchanged by the state in some way by somewhere between $500,000 and $1,000? So it seems to be within what you're projecting.
Yeah, and really that 1.2, I think that's what it looks at being shortchanged $500,000 to $1 million, because remember, we're still, that doesn't take into account what we would be getting for next year's allotment. So regular transportation, special education transportation that were owed reimbursements for this year that we're doing the claims for. I don't even think they're gonna get to touching those claims when they've got all the backlog still there.
So I would put the question back to the administration, that if we were in agreement on our direction to you is plan for a stage, shortfall of state payments of $550 million, is that workable with everything else that we need done this year?
Well, let's put it this way, I'm gonna put these revenues in, you're gonna be looking at a deficit budget. I mean, there's no 2 ways about that. I mean, you're gonna be looking at a major deficit. Then it's a question of what do we do moving forward from that, how we want to really look at it. This is going to be a conversation that we're gonna have often this year. Because if you wanna go back to having then a balanced operating budget, we're gonna need to start looking at operations because your revenues are about to be at best frozen and at worst reduced. And you were holding at an operating budget that was balanced with the exception of one-time expenditures, whether that was in form of construction or certain things that we said, it was one time and it didn't have to reoccur. But when you start looking at reductions like this in revenue, you're gonna have to start looking at what do we do to bring that back in line to have a balanced operating budget. Now, the good news is you have fund balances to get you through this. There's an awful lot of school districts out there that don't have those fund balances to get you through it. So, yeah, you have your rainy day funds, thankfully. But it's not something that you want to just ignore and continue ignoring going forward. And I'm not saying that maybe your plan is to, pull off the Band-Aid and do it all in 1 year. I'm hoping that we'll have some information on all of these unknowns, hopefully by the time we do, levy in October, November, so that we can start making some real plans for what it looks like going forward. Because that's going to require a lot of work on the part of administration to bring you forward some recommendations that say, this is what we think we can reduce, and this is what we think are firm, and you don't want to touch that.
Right, so as we make our assumptions about the budget that we're going to set, and I think the real work for addressing the issues is exactly as Fran said, October, November. Because then we can address the structural issues in the budget for school year 18-19. That's where you can frankly affect your spending. But those conversations truly need to start in October, because you'll have to make decisions around staffing, around building budgets, around capital improvements, all those different pieces as they come together. Frankly, if we start early enough, we can have a clear conversation, make good decisions, and make sure that we're not reacting too aggressively to what's coming at us.
So, Fran, you're working on the 5-year projection model, and so certain all of this goes into it. So it looks like the road deficit, so it's just going to keep going and going and going. So do you have any idea of how hypothetically, let's say, in 5 years, then, magic happens and we are just flush with cash and then we don't have a problem? Do we have an idea of how big that deficit will grow to?
That's what we're working on right now. I'm trying to get my start here. My start here starts with the assumptions that you're making right now. After I have that start point, the rest of it kind of flows from there, and actually quite easily flows from there. So you'll have that in your hands July 20th when I give you your books. It'll be there. But this is probably the hardest of the conversations. Where do we want to start with this? Once we kind of set what we think our baseline is going to be, the rest of it will flow and you'll see it pretty easily. I've thrown in worst case scenarios. Have enough cash in bank that you're going to be fine. You just need to stay on top of it and continue having good conversations. The board at some point in time set a goal to not be below a $10 million cash balance, even with worst case scenario, you weren't anywhere close to that before. So, thankfully, also we're not pressing the panic button. I'm not coming to you talking about tax anticipation warrants or anything like that. We're not in that situation. But you're staying that way by having these conversations and staying diligent.
So what else do you need from us?
We have 1.2, just assume that maybe they'll pay us or fail. Yes?
Yes.
All right. The last is the federal grants. All we have is what state board has put up as estimates. The grants aren't even open yet. So right now they're estimating $438,000 for Title I, which is slightly less than last year. This one cracks me up. They're estimating $88,000, which is actually a $32,000 increase over last year, which makes me scratch my head and go, but all right. Title III is about $7,000 less at 19, and Title III is bilingual education. And IDEA is at $448,000. I'm estimating more like $500,000. Their estimates historically for IDEA come in under. This is $230,000 less than the fiscal year 17 budget, but you got to remember that budget includes carryover monies, which is a whole different animal. So when I say carryover, don't think Title I, it's just a whole different beast to IDEA. So they'll usually come out with a projection, and then they will recalc in the next couple of months. I think we'll see probably closer to 650 on IDEA at the end, when all said and done. But those are the best numbers that we have to play with from the state, from the feds. So unless you have any objection with me just using what the state board's estimates are, that's kind of where we'll run.
Objections?
That's it. Good? Yeah.
But you will build in worst case scenarios or no? That part what you said earlier.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build this in for your base budget. If things start changing in the next month, I'll adjust them as they come in. Then we'll run with that for budget. If things really start getting wonky after I get you your budget book, we make a change, but really it's gonna just change on the revenue side. So all it's gonna be is a couple of number change and your bottom line will change one way or the other, up or down. It's not gonna change the bulk of your budget. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run you a couple of scenarios for the projections and what that looks like, property tax free, CPI, a couple of those things. Okay.
We'll get the budget books on
July
the
20th.
right before we all go on vacation. Is there anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Next item on the agenda. Okay. Donation to District 161. Dr. Smith, you start the introduction.
Certainly, so this opportunity has been floating around for a little while now, and had an opportunity, as I've certainly onboarded into the district, to speak with Ms. Demetrovich and some additional community members who are really committed to this process. You have the report in front of you. We're looking at a grant from Mr. Alan Castro to Serena Hills, focused on STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And potentially the donation could be up to $200,000. That is an incredible sum of money that has an opportunity to create situations for students and teachers in our district that may not have been possible before. Coming after the budget conversation, it also could free up money to use at other buildings for different projects to create additional opportunities. A couple of things we need to talk about tonight, specifically related to board policy. The purpose of the gift, is it compatible with what we're looking to do as far as our strategic plan? The resource equity between schools is noted in policy 880. And also, any additional information the board would need before we brought back an action requesting that we accept the donation from Mr. Castro. As I mentioned, I believe this process started in 2015. So there is something to be said about time being of the essence and wanting to be responsive to a potential donor. So a lot of work has been done up until this point. Doesn't mean we can't go back and review everything. But instead of starting completely over for this conversation, we wanted to bring up Sherry to have a quick conversation just about some of the work that's been done in the past. And she came all the way back from Hawaii.
Aloha. Let's talk about some accessible dollars, right? Let's have a discussion, Fran.
And so Sherry, before you start, when you say, when you said the process started in 2015, so when your report out, okay, thank you.
Dr. Smith, Mrs. Hort, Board of Education. Let me give you a little bit of history on how we came about having this conversation with Mr. DeCastro. So in December of 2015, Mr. DeCastro reached out, called me and said, hey, I am a former alumnus from Serena Hills back in 1960. He comes from a big family. He lived on Holbrook Road. And he shared some amazing stories just about how memorable his school experience was at Serena Hills and the staff that supported him. But above and beyond his educational experience, the things that people were doing for his family and outreach. He did go to our webpage and notice all the service learning that was going on and decided, you know what, I think I would like this opportunity to get back to the school community. So Mr. DeCastro is the executive director and a co-founder of Art Plus Practice. I'm going to pass this around so you can look at his work. It is a non-for-profit organization that works with foster care students, and they do a lot of work with local artists, and then they have a platform where they display their work and they learn voice and ways of expression through their art, different forms of art. He's a social activist. He lives in LA. He has a partner who lives in Europe who is an artist, and he has decided that he wanted to make an initial donation, which the dollar amounts were given to you. He wanted specifically some dollars donated and allocated for Blessings in a Backpack. He liked the outreach and what we were doing for students and our families that were in greatest need. And then he decided that he wanted to come out for a visit. So he came out for a visit, and we had Mr. and Mrs. Lickard, they're in our audience today, but they are PTO parents and our former superintendent, and we talked a little bit about a vision and what it would mean for 21st century learning for all students in 161. So we talked about a STEM lab and what that would look like and how early exposure was really important for all kids. And so he said, well, I would be very interested in funding something of that nature once you discuss and have a little bit more information that you can give me. So January 2016, the donation, the first initial donation was presented to the board and approved. In April, Mr. DiCastro did come out to Serena. We had a meeting, like I said, we did a site visit. We talked a little bit more about the STEM opportunity. And then in May, we started contacting Creative Learning Systems and Project Lead the Way to look at those two specific curriculums and opportunities for our students. Go to the next slide. In July, we had decided after researching Creative Learning Systems and Project Lead the Way that Creative Learning Systems was a better opportunity. And I'll tell you a little bit about the research as we go through the slide presentation, but it offered more opportunities for diverse learners with multiple backgrounds and different ethnic backgrounds. And we liked it that it had some really good primary elementary components to their modules, which is a little bit different from Project Lead the Way, who had a very targeted population. They were basically catering to the highest math and science students. And when we looked at the demographics, it was predominantly white males that were kind of really accessing that program and going into that because they were pulled at the highest end of math and science, where creative learning was much more diverse in nature. So we decided that we were going to have Creative Learning Systems come out, and at that time we had a small internal committee in our own infrastructure here at 161. They did a presentation from their rep. We worked with Scott, and we did a floor plan at Serena in the media center, so we did measurements. We looked at a target price estimation for what it would cost, and that's down from furniture to hardware to curriculum, K to 5, and the full cost. In August, we contacted Mr. DiCastro by phone. We gave him the targeted price estimations, and he was gracious, and it was very emotional for me because that level of donation is pretty amazing. He was interested in funding the entire project at Serena. So with that, we had some transition. And so with Dr. Smith coming aboard, we started to talk, brought him up to speed on where we were at and how we can move forward. Our goal is to engage, motivate, and empower all learners to build 21st century skills and prepare them to compete in a global economy. That is very much in line with our mission and our strategic plan. Next slide, please. So here's what the research indicates about just STEM programs themselves. African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans, and women are seriously underrepresented in many STEM-related fields. Not due to their proficiency, but lack of exposure and interest. So Creative Learning System provides engaged opportunities for a broader, diverse population for learning, including their abilities, backgrounds, and interests, as I indicated. The Elementary Smart Lab, the goal here is to develop 21st century skills, so problem solving, critical thinking, communication, innovation, creativity, and then look at all those STEM foundational skills, you know, how they can look at robotics, how they can look at circuitry, how they can look at publishing and multimedia facets, any kind of science and data acquisitions. So as we go through this, there's an opportunity for kids at an early age to be exposed at all levels, starting in kindergarten. Learning occurs through the modules. Can you just go back for 1 second? I'm sorry. Learning occurs through the modular project-based centers, and the program aligns with the Common Core and national standards, are all integrated within the curriculum. Okay? Future action plans or items. So today we presented to you the gift from Mr. DeCastro. In the future, we would like to develop a STEAM committee. We have a lot of stakeholders that have amazing expertise in this field. We'd like to then formulate a committee, then make visits. As you know, most of you know, Homewood District is accessing and using Creative Learning Systems in their school system, and Park Forest is doing the same. Their Michelle Obama School is running the elementary program as well. The timeline, one more, Kathy, you can just go back. The timeline is to create, propose, and implementation. Timeline after we devise a committee, and then present to the board the Creative Learning Smart Lab at Serena Hills, and again, how it can be versatile, flexible, and allow the opportunity for all students to engage and participate. And then we have to keep in mind, be cognizant of board policy 880, meaning that we need to maintain resource equity and align with the strategic plan. Any questions?
What is the actual plan? STEAM lab, is that?
Yes. The actual plan is to create a STEAM smart lab at Serena. The goal is to develop a committee made up of all stakeholders, and to see how we could develop that lab, use that lab, and then have the district.
How developed is the plan? Do we have a floor plan, do we have equipment list?
We have a floor plan, we have an equipment list, we have projected estimate of the total project, outlining work that needs to be done. Some of the like outsourcing, Scott, we talked about like electricity or some of the things that you could do without, but it included all the equipment, all the furniture, the software, the entire package.
What about personnel?
That was the one thing. We have to look at FTE and then what that would look like. And I think that has to come out of what we decide, you know, with obviously Dr. Smith, but the committee, to look at the needs and how we would then move our library to classroom level library and what that would look at. So there's some decisions that need to be made by the committee.
So having run programs like this for the last 4 or 5 years, personnel is the single most important piece. I never had trouble finding money for robotics. You know, the equipment we can get. What I've learned over the last few years is you need dedicated teachers and parents. So in the school setting, you need teachers who are just really enthusiastic about this. You guys have to talk about whether to do this as part of the school day or offer as an after school. If you talk to the folks at Homewood, they started this about a year ago in their own district. I heard some unhappy voters about the cost of it, but you know, maybe they have some lessons that we can learn from them. But you know, it seems to me that unless you're at a point where you say, I definitely have a teacher or staff member who is going to lead this, whatever shape it might take, you're missing an important component.
No, I think it's absolutely the most important component. And I think that there will be, you know, maybe some additional, you know, staff that will be needed to support the centers and the lab, because there are modules that are set up, so there's a media center, there's a circuitry center, and so it takes up the majority of the space in the media center. So I think staffing patterns are going to have to be something that are going to be based on need and how we choose to utilize the lab. And I think we should look at after-school programming. I think we should consider summer school STEM labs and how we can best use it and get our students to start collaborating and working together from other schools. It would be great to have fourth, fifth graders meet and work on things, across the district. That's ideal.
I think the power of this work will really kind of fall to the committee. Because it's not just the lab, frankly, Serena, it's everything that comes after that. If there are staffing implications, that's a long-term commitment for the board. Interim capital decisions that are made at the buildings, it's a one-time cost potential. There's certainly some upkeep, and I think that's where number one on the board report really comes in. Alignment to our strategic plan, having that commitment, so that ultimately, as the decisions continue to roll down, accepting this donation is easy work. That's no problem. It's fantastic. But once you get past that, the commitments that you decide to make as a board, moving forward in the area of STEAM, certainly with regard to the labs that we will create opportunities for kids, I think is certainly something to consider. The amount of work that Sherry's put in her team, passion that she has. I'm sorry that I didn't notice the liquors originally. We had a wonderful conversation. I think, what's so energizing around this whole conversation and concept is that there's just a personal commitment to our kids, to our community, and wanting to create a really high-class educational opportunity for kids. So this is an exciting opportunity, and really, as we address 1 through 3, if there's any other information that we can bring back, this isn't an accept the donation and then we go do the work. If you decide to accept this donation, we can bring that committee back together, make sure that we have not only tactical plans for the next 6 to 12 months, but some strategic plans as well that probably stretch out anywhere from 18 to 36 months.
So what is it you're asking for to do now?
Well, we have to formally accept the donation. Either we accept it or we don't. Tonight, we're not asking you to do anything. So at the next meeting, on July 10th, we'll bring a recommendation to accept the donation. So if there's any additional information that we need ahead of that, in order to make a decision, that's the only thing that we need you to provide tonight, or any time up until July 10th.
So obviously, a donation is an awesome thing. But I do, I've heard Cameron's questions around budget, so of course we want to know that. What are your one-time construction costs? What are your ongoing operation costs? But I also would like to hear a little bit about how this really does fit into the larger 161 mission strategic plan. So I think I'd almost want to hear, it would be helpful to hear about it in terms of a pilot at Serena. And so how can we do pilot something at Serena and then take that to a larger scale so that our entire district could have something like that at all of our schools? So how will we evaluate this? How will we try and replicate it? How will we seek additional funding if we wanted to replicate it? Because the most ideal situation is that all of our schools have the opportunity to have a STEM lab. So talking about it as a pilot at Serena, I think would be helpful so that we know we're trying something out and they have the opportunity to tweak ongoing so we can figure out its replicability.
There's also a training component that is included in the total cost. So when we say present the creative learning smart lab at Cerritos, the pilots, we could certainly change that. That's part of what we will do, to say how we will go forward and measure and our success and what things we need to tweak. And I think that that's right about specifically really looking at the stakeholders that are make up the committee, but also the staffing patterns moving forward.
Right. I mean, because in order for us to really be successful at meeting our strategic planning goals, it can't be just success that we see at one school. So piloting it and figuring out how we replicate it and can afford it at all the other schools, I think will be an integral part. I'm also interested in utilization in terms of space utilization, because I heard you said that it takes up a good chunk of the media room. So how will you now balance that? You know, as taking up a big chunk of the media room, then how will kids now have access to the media room? I mean, so figuring out the logistics will be, you know, we don't want to create a STEM lab at the expense of getting rid of a media
Yeah, well,
center.
right,
So.
and the computer lab that's currently existing in our media center will not go away. We'll have to creatively look at master scheduling and how we'll access, teachers will access the computer lab. Again, it will be based on a lot of decisions made by the committee and some of the experts that say, and then going to visit other school districts and say, how have you done it? And what were, some of your implications and barriers to success, and we'll have to learn from them. So the work of the committee is going to be valuable.
That's actually the perfect example of type of intertwined decisions. Because you'll have to ask yourself, why do we still have computer labs? What are we trying to accomplish by having that fixed space of your license? So it's not just a conversation about science and engineering. It goes into
So they can learn keyboarding, that's why we started.
And that's the whole goal of STEM
This
too,
is true.
is not to teach in isolation, not to go and just teach math and some components of STEM and math. It's actually integrated throughout the curriculum, and that's the goal, is to unpack several standards and attack them in a very collaborative, project-based way.
One of the, Wendy even mentioned it before. One of the workshops that I went to, Earl might have gone with me on this, was to look at how Aurora, I want to say Indian Prairie and some others had come together, Aurora University as well, to collaborate. It's 4 different governing bodies to collaborate on a STEM space that was used for different purposes. So in the morning, there was 3 different school districts to send kids, and then in the evening, the furniture actually was able to level up to to adult size, so that adults could use the same space as a learning space as well. So it wasn't the case of it was only used for 4 hours of the day, and then the other 20 hours it was waiting for kids to come back. It was recycled, and so maybe even in that framework of mind, we could think about in terms of, okay, it is you don't have to lose the media center as we understand it, but maybe we can somehow integrate what's there. And certainly in terms of a STEAM program as opposed to a strict STEM program, books are not mutually exclusive to other learning environments. It might take some moving stuff around, or figuring out how we are thinking about the media center, as opposed to maybe going back to our how are we using our new libraries that we've just put into each of our classrooms, and is this something that would gravitate, would just be the media center, but also would there be STEM carts that would go out to different wings of the school and at different times of the day? So to what degree might that be mobile as well as just in one space?
The flexible furniture is certainly something we looked at. They have movable, everything's movable, nothing's permanent fixtures, tables, raised, there's whiteboards, it's pretty dynamic when you see it. So the furniture certainly is conducive to doing exactly what you said, Mr. Freitas. You could lower it, you can make it a little bit of a kind of a career center and do some really highly innovative things.
But even look, and also I know that Glenbard was also doing a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of different schools that have tried different things, but they do communicate with each other, and those would be great conversations for us to be part of as well.
The goal is to make it equitable for all students, and how we could, successfully move students in and out without major disruption, but have equal access and exposure as a pilot to see how we can better continue that initiative through the district is certainly our goal.
So just to clarify, for the next board meeting, we'll move back information about how this aligns to the D161 strategic plan, plan for piloting and then at some point scaling to the rest of the schools. We'll bring a full pilot kind of write-up, which includes evaluation, funding, stakeholders, all of those pieces, we'll have those in there. Excuse me, the specific costs for the plans, space utilization, not only within the building, but access across the district, also discuss the access. And then potential intergovernmental use opportunities, that goes into that funding piece as well. As Prairie State or other universities want to create connections, this could be one that we could explore. Are there any other pieces or any other questions that you would like us to answer for the next week?
This doesn't need to be answered, but just I want to add, when you're thinking about stakeholders, it might be, so as inclusive as you can be, that goes beyond just the Serena Hill boundary. I mean, even
Absolutely.
having teachers at some of our other schools be a part of it so that they can participate with an eye on replicating and adding knowledge. I mean, we've got fabulous teachers at all of our schools who can help, I think, with the pilot, but I think it would be great to have.
Sure, absolutely. Even having somebody or somebody there so we can start building some community partnerships and with businesses as well as far as, materials and things like that.
So I guess, I don't really, personally don't, you don't bring any information back for me personally, say I'm filing for donation. I just want to make sure that the administration understands the amount of work it's taking on, because here's how this will really play out, right? I agree with Ms. Horace's comments 100%. The way to satisfy our core policy about equity throughout the district is treat it as a pilot program and try to expand it to the schools. But you are not going to find $200,000 in the budget for every school. It means in order to make it actually expand it to the schools, the reality is we're going to have to go out and find money. Now, there are plenty of local community companies that are sponsoring programs like this, but not to the tune of $200,000. And then, part of this conversation is then you're either going to compete with or consolidate with other programs in the community that are going on and are competing for the same money, right? Everyone's going to CN, everybody's going to Schneider, everybody's going to all these companies to get money. And so it's a ton of work, and you need a champion or 3 or 4 within the district who are excited about doing this. Without that, it'll be a nice lab that after a couple of years, people is interested. So, I guess that's really what I want to see. I mean, you've got enough on your plate, you can't do it. So, what I'd really like to see is who that person is.
Well, it's certainly somebody in this room, to be honest. And I think part of that conversation really does come down to the board's decision moving forward. We'll absolutely have to fundraise. But also the benefit of having fundraisers is the opportunity to spend some of that in strategic and very focused times in order to create opportunities for kids. And I think that's where, if we can have a very clear process, if we have a very clear connection to our strategic plans and how moving forward in this area will help us realize those, then you're right. But you're right, and I don't, to Cam's point, it is a big lift. Let's not, that can't be lost on it. It's a heck of a lot of work. The easy part's probably been done, just building the spreadsheet of how much it'll cost and those things. It's frankly building a diverse stakeholder group of the committee, really connecting with some community members who are motivated and who have some skill and take projects like this and running with them, and we can partner with them. So Cam's 100%.
Well, and, again, Project Big Starting and how it aligns with our own within the district, because there's so many opportunities. But the rep from Creative Learning Systems talked very passionately about the instructor or instructors and the supports that are needed, and not just to make it a lab, but to make it a really innovative, engaged, opportunity where kids are highly collaborative. And what does that look like? And you have to understand then the depth of knowledge, and you have to understand what it takes to impact those standards and what you're really interested in, how you assess the learning that goes forward.
or champions, cheerleaders, whatever you want to call them. So maybe one way to get at that is be very strategic about who some of your stakeholders are. So, you know, think about how you put a call out very broadly to the community at large and being very clear about what the expectations are of, you know, stakeholders that are part of this group. Or, I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but my point is you should be very strategic about at least some of those members on the committee, because there is a fundraising need, and there is, as you know, an amazing amount of talent and resources in our community, but sometimes it just requires the ask to the right person. So we should brainstorm some more, I think, and
We were taking some of Mr. Nelson did some robotic things at Marion, and some of our teachers went out there just to get a feel, listened to his wife intently about, you know, how they were formulating some of the groups and how they were drawing them in his business partnership. So, you know, I think you're right, it's got to be very eclectic, the group needs to be very diverse, the committee, so that they bring in a level of expertise in different ones. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Public Act 099-0922, testament for lead in schools. Dr. Smith?
Certainly, I'd like to welcome Scott Station to the podium to talk briefly about Public Act 099-0922. This is really just an informational report, but as we move into the fall, it's important to have this conversation now, so I'm not surprised when testing begins when students trip.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Smith. So, Senate Bill 570, testing for lead in drinking water is what we're talking about here. I'd like to do a quick update of the bill, how it affects us here in District 161, and my plan of attack to comply with it. So, earlier this year, January 16th, Governor Rauner signed this bill into law. This law includes water testing guidelines, protocol sampling, and reporting procedures for K through 5 school facilities. So which buildings does this fall for us? Any facility that was constructed on or before January 1st of 2000 that can be occupied by more than 10 students, pre-K through 5th grade. For us, that means Serena, Heather, Western, and Fossil Hills. Since our buildings were built before January 1st, 1987, we must test and report before December 31st of this year. Which water sources do we have to test? Any source that may be ingested by children for use for food preparation, such as water fountains, food prep sinks, and classroom sinks in grades 1 and under, so pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. This does not include bathroom sinks or custodial sinks or custodial slot closets. So after we test, we have to report, and sampling results must be made public no matter how the numbers come back. If any sample has a concentration above 5 parts per billion, individual communication must be sent to all parents and guardians of that facility, and must include fixture location with the concentration above 5 parts per billion, and EPA's website for information about lead in drinking water. If all samples have a concentration below 5 parts per billion, notifications can simply be made on the school's websites. Okay, so this is my plan of attack to comply with this. I will test all facilities, including Parker and Norman. I feel that's appropriate. I feel all of our students should be protected, as well as all of our staff should be safe with our potable drinking water. We will test all classroom and staff room sinks, not just the pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. Pre-K and kindergarten classrooms usually stay where they're at year after year. That's not so true of first grade. So they may be in classrooms 7 and 8 at Serena,
this year, but maybe in 10 to 12 of next year. So I would not feel comfortable just testing where they're at now, knowing that in a year or two they may be in a different location. So this means we will have to test about 125 locations throughout the district. And we will test during the school year to achieve accurate results. I'm targeting September, October timeframe, which gives us about the month of November or so to get results back, and then gives us enough time to report for December 31st. The actual testing procedure, which is in the bill, is not just a simple go to that location, you fill a 250 milliliter sample and close it and then you're done. It's a process that starts the night before with the flushing of each location. After it's flushed, you can't touch it for 8 to 18 hours. You come back the next morning. We do 2 draws, which is 2 samples per fixture. So in essence, we're doing 250 samples. The first one is the first draw. We take that sample, then we flush that the drinking fountain, whatever it is, the sink, and then we do another sample. Point being, if the first draw is high, that means we have a potential issue with the fountain itself or the sink itself. If the second draw is high, we have an issue with the system, the building itself. So that kind of pinpoints where we could concentrate our efforts. Okay. Quick. Any questions on that? How much? I got a preliminary estimate for $10,000. Annually. I'm sorry, annually. It doesn't say annually. The bill just says everyone needs a test right now. It doesn't say anything into the future. I assume we'll probably see that coming down the pipe in health life safety checklist, and maybe every 2 to 3 years we'll have to test.
Are we required or deviated testing results?
No.
Also not indicated. Clearly, we would have to do something, but also not indicated in the bill.
Yes.
So if you find that they're above 5 dB, they use them to tell people to not do it.
That's what the bill says.
That's really, 5 parts per billion is.
Yes.
It's not.
Okay, but if it's higher than that?
I mean, if I had that at home, I would be concerned, but if it's higher, 50, 100, 500, then, we may have a problem. Are there any buildings we suspect that we have lead pipes, lead solder?
No, lead solder, maybe, lead pipes, no. So I'm not anticipating any high levels coming back. We'll take appropriate actions.
We've seen a few come back from neighboring, just people that we've spoken to that have required a couple of, drinking fountains to be replaced, but nothing significant so far.
That's the worst I've heard of myself. Not whole buildings have to renovate their entire piping system.
We'll bring this quote back for approval.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Item 7 on the agenda, committee report, speed update. Ms. Huckabee will share an update there. And before she shares her update, I just want the rest of the board and the audience to know that she was just elected as the vice president of Speed.
Congratulations.
Probably we're not going to tell that.
Good evening. Just a few things. Speed, we were actually able to hold a meeting. That has been a problem in the past. And so what Speed has done is adopted a resolution for a primary and a secondary alternative representative for each district for the and the operating board, so business can be conducted timely. The last meeting, we had to sit and wait almost 45 minutes before someone, they were calling out that we needed to do that because of the simple fact we haven't been able to conduct business in the last 2 prior meetings. On to, and so each district, and I know that's on our agenda tonight to talk about. Graduation, of course, in all schools occurred, and there was a large donation to the Speed District this past year to assist with their graduation and their luncheon from the Bambino family. A $15,000 donation was accepted, as well as a partnership with Walmart. They partnered with them for the luncheon and the graduation to provide refreshments as well as gifts for each graduate family. And as well as the executive director, as of January 30th, will be retiring, Sharon Roster. And because of the simple fact that we have not, the search firm has not been able to bring forth a recommended candidate or an accepted candidate to Interment, executive, they're kind of co-chair, have been in place there, and until a candidate is found. And so that is a little, not totally unusual, but they are both retired superintendents. So that was a little comforting, and they are already there in place. The other thing was, well, Michelle mentioned we did have an election of officers. I wasn't going to talk about all of that, but we did do an election of officers because a lot of people unfortunately did not return. We have a new slate, about 6 new members who came aboard that are brand new. So a lot of those officers are going to go unfilled. Other than that, that is it for Speed, and we're looking to again kind of get those alternates in place, especially because we have a meeting upcoming on July 20th. Great. That's it for me.
That's it?
Yeah.
Any questions for Ms. Huckabee? Okay. We have, I think this is our only action item on the agenda. Appoint primary and secondary board, excuse me, representative to Speed Co-op. The Speed Governing Board adopted a resolution on April 27, 2017, amending Speed Policy Number 240 regarding member district representation on the Speed Operating Committee and the Speed Governing Board. Can I have a motion to approve and adopt this resolution?
So
Ms. Huckabee, Mr. Brady, can we do a roll call, please?
Okay, Simmons?
Yes.
Briggs?
yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes, and the motion has passed. So, Dr. Smith is now informing me that I need to now appoint 2 people. I think it makes sense that Ms. Huckabee remains, especially since she was just elected as Vice President. And I know Steve has also expressed interest in this committee, so I'd like for Steve to be the second. Unless there's someone else who, I think I see Cameron's hand going, okay, no.
It's so much fun.
All right, so we have Ms. Huckabee and Mr. Paredes as our Speed appointed representatives. Great. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, we're trying to decide on whether or not this resolution actually needs to be read out loud. Whereupon the president declared the motion carried and said resolution adopted. adopted and in open meeting approved and signed said resolution and directed the secretary to record the same in full in the records of the Board of Ed of Flossmoor School District 161, Cook County, Illinois, which was done. Other business not pertinent to the adoption of said resolution was duly transacted at said meeting. Upon motion duly made, second, and carried, the meeting was adjourned. It's not adjourned yet, but June 26th. Oh, goodness. June 26, 2017. Okay. Great. The next item on the agenda is executive session. But before I take a motion to move to executive session, I do want to just acknowledge that this is Dr. Smith's first day sitting right here. We know that you've already done a ton of work before today, so we appreciate it and then
Official. Glad to be here.
we are now going to adjourn for executive session, matter related to personnel, 53ICS 120-2. We have a motion to move into exec session. Ms. Huckabee, Mr. Graves,